I honestly don't even remember a time in my life where I didn't have the internet. And lately I've been hearing and reading about this like surveillance capitalism kind of stuff, which is making me a lot more uneasy to be online. But it's like, what does my life look like without the internet at this point?
It's a very weird moment where it's just like everything you do is being tracked and recorded, and most people are aware of that. And some of us even know that we're all being listened to and recorded for no particularly good reason. Surveillance capitalism as a term is somewhat useful. It's like a bit of a red herring in a way also, because there's no surveillance capitalism. There's just capitalism, and capitalism looks for different things to transform into commodities. One of the resources that it has at its disposal is personal information and data.
I definitely do get all my news online.
When I first wake up, I'll just sit and scroll through
Instagram, scroll in Facebook, scroll in Twitter. You ever wonder how many miles that you scrolled in your life? Ever. There has to be some newspapers out in the wild that need to be found.
The things that you do online, but also like offline too, any trace that you leave behind is going to be transformed in some way into a commodity.
Found this Dinya newsstand. It is definitely closed, but if there's one newsstand around here, there like has to be another, right? They're out there, so I'll ingest the news of today.
The data collected being then amassed into predictive systems that attempt to predict, what you're going to buy, who you are as a consumer. If you've got these particular demographics, what sort of things would you be interested in or would hold your attention?
It's like, where do I start? Now I'm focusing all of my attention.
Your phone isn't listening to you and sending recordings of your voice to like Facebook and Google and Twitter. But when you see an ad for something that you had a conversation about, it's actually because those ad networks are predicting what you're going to be talking about.
I'm just out kind of running a few errands. I didn't have my phone, and right in front of me was like the cutest little dog. My first kind of instinct was to put it on my Instagram story.
There is no profit in connecting people so that they can talk to their families. And there's not really profit in getting people to search things unless you put ads on it.
Cameras are way more conspicuous than a phone, which everyone kind of expects people to have out. So having a camcorder made it definitely more uncomfortable. So I'm on my way to work right now. Usually I would check the train schedules and kind of what delays were happening. I just left really early, just in case.
Advertising is more a lab environment. These are the kinds of predictive algorithms that might be used in a lot of other sectors that are actually a lot more directly impactful and consequential for our lives.
Determining like if you get credit or bill, determining if you have access to home loans.
We're policing at our borders to decide who gets to come into the country, who has to be shuffled into some holding camp. We can keep going on and on and on. But these technologies, they all claim to be doing the same thing, which is predicting our behaviors and our preferences, targeting people, but they're doing it for different purposes.
I thought about leaving my phone at home, but I can't even describe how deeply wrong that feels at the very core of my being, to leave my phone at home for the entire day.
It's always been the case that those in power use new technologies to solidify existing social structures, to reinforce their own power, to wield power over people that are already exploited, already marginalized, already victimized. Surveillance capitalism is not new whatsoever. It's new tools for accelerating and amplifying long-standing trajectories.
I have it in my bag, just internet turned off.
It is a delusion of privilege to think that the consequences of surveillance will only ever be felt by other parts of society. Because these distinctions between the luxury surveillance of our Alexas and our Apple Watches and these kind of nice consumer devices, and the imposed surveillance of policing, the boundaries are flexible. They're constantly breached and redefined. The mechanisms of surveillance and capitalism, of exploitation and extraction that are tested on the most vulnerable in society are always rolled out in some form to everybody else in society.
Oh yeah, so I actually work writing for social media. So I don't know how this whole thing can work when I have to be on Instagram and Facebook.
Think very clearly and very carefully about what we want to be a commodity and what we don't want to be a commodity. That's communication platforms, right? But it's also things like housing, healthcare, just all the things that we need.
I accidentally broke my roommate's French press, so I am out to get a little replacement. And I kind of cheated because I Googled where to find the glass thingy, but I was looking for a specific brand in a specific size. How can I just know where that is without Googling it? Do I just walk around to find the French press glass replacement store?
These are not issues that can possibly be resolved on an individual level, and nor should they be looked at in terms of an individual's actions.
I did disconnect to travel over here. I drew a little map for myself. I'm wondering if there's even a place to get a physical map to find your way around. I was wondering if you had any like paper maps. Oh no, like a map.
Oh, maps? No.
Wondering if you had any maps.
Any maps?
Maps, like a paper map.
So I was wondering if you had any maps.
I don't know if they can find this now.
Right?
Yeah, we used to.
If there were different goals in mind from the outset, then there would be different outcomes.
It's often just about ownership, right? So like, what if Facebook was public? What if these companies were co-ops? You know, what if Amazon was worker-owned? Like, you know, just those prompts give you a very different way that these technologies would then be rolled out and developed as we're going forward. I also think there's a role here for systemic change, regulatory change that centres human rights and democratic process.
Or we just get the pitchforks out.
If we want search engines and if we want social networks, why should they be owned by a company? Surveillance and capitalism individually are forces that limit people, that prevent them from fully expressing themselves, that force them to act in ways they might not otherwise want to for safety or security. And if we want to be free, and if we want to flourish and enjoy our lives, we have to attack both of them, not just the fusion of them. Until we get rid of both of them, we will have all sorts of problems regarding freedom and safety and security and, pursuits of happiness that we all want.
I guess after all of this, I'm still pretty scared, but I also realize that it doesn't all have to work in this way. I don't think we all need to become 21st century ascetics and delete all of our social media profiles and all of our online accounts, because no one person can really fully protect themselves. And the individual user isn't really to blame anyways. All we can really do is get together with our own communities to come up with solutions to our specific needs. Because there's really no one way to tackle a system that's so vast and ever present in every aspect of our lives. Right now we have multiple futures that we can choose from, but we need to make that decision together and do it pretty quickly.